Let's speak more about the IFP's policy conference. We can bring in political analyst Dr Ongama Mtimka. A very good evening to you, Dr Mtimka. Good to have your time as always on News at Prime. So how critical, how crucial a policy conference is this for the IFP when you consider that it's the first since the passing of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, and some say what happens now is what will determine whether the organization survives, whether it grows in the coming year?
Good evening to you and your viewers. Tembekile, thank you for having me. So it is a crucial policy conference. There are two things I think that are major politically. One, it's what you correctly point out, the passing on of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, the emeritus president of the party, as well as the emerging politics around the coalition charter. Both of those put on as a responsibility to the key leaders led by Honorable Hlabisa to define the party, leveraging the heritage of the party, that nexus between traditional and modern politics, while at the same time strengthening a message that is relevant to voters, in particular KZN, as well as Gauteng and South Africa in general. Those two provinces are the key provinces for the IFP, mainly KZN.
So speaking today, Hlabisa said something quite interesting, speaking about IFP policy. He says they believe in getting power closer to the people, devolving it to the lowest level of governance, enabling, he says, communities to design their own solutions to their unique challenges. Is that a practical take on politics, and how much will it resonate in an ever increasingly competitive political landscape?
To some degree, it's very practical in the sense that we have seen in recent years the ANC, newcomers rise to some extent, and now the IFP attempting to do what may be called as bottom-up planning. In fact, the EFF has also done this, where they have a bottom-up approach to crafting a manifesto or a policy offering of the party. This is actually a sign of the times. We're living in times where for voters it has become necessary to get their voices heard, and also to create an impression of inclusion. Because going forward, South African voters are going to be very sensitive to, how well political parties capture their issues on the ground. And given the fact that while we are a diverse society, in South Africa there's general acceptance that the key indicators for a good party and a good election message is the extent to which it responds to service delivery issues and issues that are pressing. And in provinces like KZN, where there is a significant urban population and also a significant rural population, it's important to remain in touch with those in order to ensure that one's message is crafted to attract those voters.
And is that the sort of politics that's easier to implement, for example, for a party such as the IFP, where it's got a very clearly defined stronghold in KwaZulu-Natal? I mean, there are the pockets of success in areas such as Gauteng, but its main base, its core voter base is in KwaZulu-Natal. Does that make it easier to implement that sort of people-centric approach to its politics and governance?
It does to a significant degree. KZN is a very, mostly homogeneous province. And I think that history made that province and, to be unique in that, in the sense that you've got you have one dominant ethnic group. It doesn't necessarily follow that the needs are the same, because you've got the southern part as well as the northern part, where there are nuances in terms of what is preferred. But more generally, the IFP, with a very focused province from which it fishes as a fishing pond, it actually helps it helps it to be able to have a coherent message. And quite, what makes the IFP unique, in my view, is on matters of general national importance, its voice is such that it is on par with everybody else, and then it drives a significant conservative politics which emphasizes tradition and family values. And I think that it's unique in that sense, and does speak to its constituency. And in fact, it's no surprise that it has retained some degree, even though it has been declining since the 1994 election, with each successive election except when it became a comeback child in 2016 and 2019. Otherwise, it's got this sort of captive audience, but it's not without contestation. The big parties are vying for the KZN support. It's a populous province, and it contributes significantly. I think the last time I checked, its voter base is between 5 and 6 million. And that is probably going to increase now with the new voter registrations. So it's a significant province, and as such, it is contested by the ANC, and it's also going to be contested by splinters of the ANC. But what does count to the favor of the IFP is the decline of the NFP, which position it well to regain some lost ground. But I doubt it's going to be anywhere close to where they want it to be, significantly at 20 or above, or 20% or above.
I'd like to talk to you about the issue of positioning, especially in light of where we are with the charter that the IFP is part of with the other opposition parties, hoping that if the ANC falls below 50% next year, they'll be able to form a national government. Velenkosini Hlabisa, leader of the IFP, making it very clear, as was said at the launch of this charter, that they too will run an individual campaign with their own set of policies. I wonder what the level of risk is for the charter to sort of blur the lines ideologically for the parties, and if perhaps the larger parties, i.e. the DA, could swallow the smaller ones, even if it's not an official absorption, but via ideology, and how the positions, the seats, would be divvied up in the event that they were able to form a government.
Well, this is quite interesting. So purely on the basis of numbers, the KZN and Gauteng to some extent is, maybe mostly KZN, is the one province where the ANC could suffer so heavy a blow that it will not be a foregone conclusion that it will be the best placed party to constitute a coalition. So the prospects of a power shift in KZN, the probability thereof is a little higher in KZN than it is elsewhere so this question you are asking is significant for voters. And I think that this is going to be a function of two things. If voters perceive that the IFP throughout the campaign is very assertive on its policy offering and its policy position, and makes a point of communicating that even in discussions about the charter, which is going to be a very difficult environment, because in the charter, the Democratic Alliance is the more bullish party, to borrow stock market language. It's the more bullish party, and it's most like, in recent past, the DA has not been keen to tone down its message in line with, ensuring that other parties have a voice that can be heard. And by doing that, it might just alienate some of the voters of the IFP. I don't think it's going to be the majority of them, because I doubt that there's significant points of differences, because these parties have actually been in coalitions together, and the relationship has been a lot warmer. I doubt that it's going to be too punitive. Voters are going to be too punitive to the IFP on the basis of its association with the DA, but a significant portion of its support base may not be overly excited about a multi-party charter which they can perceive as going to swallow the IFP.
Dr. Ongama Mtimka, good to talk to you as always. Thank you so much for your time on News at Prime.